Alright guys, today we're going to be taking care of our 3 times a year triple 15 fertilizing of all our trees in the raised garden beds. Today is a kind of a gloomy day, so no sunglasses, but I always have my gardening hat on. We're going to need a couple things. Gloves, why not? Definitely put your sunscreen on, especially when it's nice and hot outside. That sun is cooking down on you. You want to protect your sun just like you protect your trees with a little bit of sunscreen, right? Avocado trees, the citrus trees, all your trees like to put a little bit of that white paint, diluted 50% with water. And anyways, we're going to be removing all the mulch off of all the trees. First of all, remove the drip lines, turn off the water, make sure that they don't turn on you. Remove the drip line, take away the mulching. We're going to add the triple 15, any other amendments you're going to be needing due to the type of tree, the season, the stage of the tree that it's in. And then we're going to scratch up the surface, re-put the mulch back on and put the drip line back on and move on to the next one. Give it a good watering and gradually. So I use a 2-gallon watering bucket. I like to give it 2 gallons and then I like to wait 10 minutes or so, 5-10 minutes, then give it another 2 more gallons. A tree like this, about 4 gallons is more than enough. Bigger trees, I give them like 6 gallons. Anyways, let's get to it. Tools needed are going to be some buckets, different sizes is cool. I like to use also a big trash can because we have a lot of mulch. You know, your little hand rake and your little scratcher for after you put your fertilizer on top of the soil. You get to scratch it in the first top 1 inch, 2 inches. Most of the time the roots are all right there at the very top of the soil, so you don't want to scratch it too much. Just, you know, even 1/2 inch is all you need. Right now we are in the June gloom timing. So today's June 1st, by the way. We had May gray and June gloom. So these trees, all my trees, I'm literally only watering them maybe 2 to 6 gallons, depending on the size, every 7 to 10 days because I'm heavily mulched. So this one I haven't watered in 10 days. And as you can see, the soil under the mulch is still nice and wet. You don't want to overwater your trees. You don't want to underwater them, of course, but overwatering them is usually the case when you see a lot of defective leaves, not you know, trees that are not doing so well. Some of you might be wondering, what is this for? Well, this is actually a vertical blind plastic cover, right? And I use it to separate, to keep the mulch away from the trunks. Because when you cover the trees with mulch, it stays wet, it doesn't get the air, it doesn't dry up, and of course, then you have problems such as you know, trunk rot, fungus that grows, and that eventually is going to affect the entire tree, the growth, the fruit, all that good stuff. Definitely want to keep the mulching away from your trees. 3 inches to 6 inches is more than enough. As this grows in diameter, this is nice because it opens up. You can make it, you know, 2 feet wide if needed. Also, this right here, this is a container that I had pretzels in, for example. It's about that big and that wide around. I cut the bottom out, I drilled a bunch of holes in it, I buried it into the dirt, and in here you unscrew it and you throw, there you go, here's a nice big old banana. You throw a banana peel. You throw all your kitchen scraps in there, keep it covered. This way rodents don't get to you. Also, all the worms and the earthworms in this soil They go in and out of this container. They consume all the organic material and break down the food, then make all those castings available for the roots and the trees to uptake. So you guys can't see it from there, but there are a ton of earthworms that are all just on the soil. Literally, they're not buried into the dirt. They're just between the layer of mulch and the soil. The more worms you see, the more you know you are doing a good job mulching and keeping your soil alive with a good balance of water, aeration, organic material such as leaves, the more worms you have, the better it is for any kind of gardening. The worm castings are the best, absolutely best, and free fertilizers you could ever have inside your garden. As far as fertilizing goes with the triple 15, March 1st, June 1st, September 1st is when I like to do it. I've been doing that for years, and I've been having great success. In addition to triple 15, I also like to do water-soluble fertilizers every 10 days, every 20 days, depending on the type of tree it is and the season and what stage the tree is at. All right, well, all the mulch is removed, and I don't know if you could see it from there, but all around, about a foot away from the actual trunk, I have a little berm. This berm was installed about 2 years ago, and it is still in good contact. Basically, when I planted the tree in its permanent residence right here, I built a little berm so that when I water and fertilize, it wouldn't just run off the sides and down. It would actually create a little wall, so the water would sit in here, the fertilizers would get in here, and then drain slowly into the soil. This berm is no longer needed simply because all the way in the back over here, there's roots. I see roots in all the corners of this big raised bed. It's a 4 foot by 4 foot raised bed, and the berm is not even needed, so I could break it down. I'm just going to leave it for another year. It doesn't hurt it. So, and now that this is apart, I can show you. This is a Washington navel orange tree. I like to save my little tags hidden in there. So look how cool this is. The vertical blinds. So you could, and they don't break, you could have this any diameter you want, right? So the bigger the tree gets, the bigger you can make this. And a small tree, of course, you can make it nice and small, right? Fold it all up, roll it up like that, and then put it on there. This I used a metal hanger, like the ones you get from the dry cleaners. Cut it, fold it in half, make a little hook shape out of it, and then this goes just like that into the soil over the blind, and it holds it in place. As far as fertilization goes, I like to use the triple 15. Any brand is good. It's granular. This breaks down slowly over time as you water it. And in this case, I used about 2.5 cups. The instructions, the label on the fertilizer will tell you how much fertilizer to give per every inch of trunk. And when you're taking the measurement, don't take the diameter of the trunk at the base. You want to go about 6 inches to even a foot high. So in this case, 6 inches about here, 1 foot is about right there, and I have about an inch and a half of a trunk right here. The packages calls for 1 cup per inch, and I have about almost 1.5 inches, maybe even possibly even 2 inches. I really don't measure it, but it's you know, more than enough to go around. So now that we place it all in here, we give it a nice little light scratch, and then we put our mulch back on. Now that it's nicely scratched up and mixed in the first 1/2 inch, even 1 inch of the soil on the berm that I originally had, I left it there. I didn't scratch it too much. You can see I didn't even scratch it much at all. I just left it hanging on there just because the roots do go that high. Sometimes they're not that high at this point, not on this. Well, no, they're still there. They're still there. But you know, you don't even have to really scratch it in. I like to scratch it in just to make sure the tree knows, like, hey, there's something going on here. So after you scratch it, the tree's like, what's going on? Defensive mode, and grows more roots deeper, further, and spreads out. Now, as you can see, I use wood chip mulch. It's a very good, strong, let's call it a cap, a lid on top of my raised garden beds. One step that I did not do right now, which I do on all my trees, honestly, I just forgot to do it. It putting leaf mulch down. So you put the fertilizer, scratch it, then you put 1 inch or 2 inches even of leaf mulch. I use the avocado leaf mulch, and then I put down the wood chips. So not to work backwards, I'm going to remove all this, put the leaf mulch, and then continue. We're gonna fast forward through that so you don't see it. All right, now that we are properly fertilized, properly mulched, our drip line is back in place. I like to use 2 gallons of hand-watered, filtered garden hose water just to have everything settle down and give it a little wash, let's call it. 2 gallons is going to cover the entire area, not saturate it, just enough to have everything settle down and get that first layer of fertilizers wet. It's not going to leach out, it's just going to be wet. What I like to do is have a trash can filled with filtered water and let it even sit there overnight. This way all the chlorine evaporates overnight. One way to help speed up the process, instead of waiting 24 hours for that chlorine to evaporate on its own, you could put a bubbler inside the tank. This way all that chlorine evaporates within a half an hour, 1 hour, depending on how many gallons you're doing. I have my trash cans that are 30 gallons filled with water. I have several of them throughout the yard, so I'm not walking all over the place. Let me show you what I'm talking about. All right, here we are. So as you can see, this is my trash can. It's filled with water that I filled up yesterday morning. I used the garden hose, but I also, as you can see, there is a water filtration system. It is a simple $15, $20 carbon filter. It eliminates like 20-30% of the hard water. Avocado trees love it. This helps eliminate salt buildups in your soil that then of course go around the roots, and then the roots can't uptake that water and fertilizer the way it's the nutrients, it's the way it's supposed to. So I always and only water with filtered water. Now that the trash can is here, obviously I could grab the hose and I could water, like, you know, directly from the hose. The problem with that is you don't know exactly how much water you're giving your tree. Was it 5 seconds, a half a gallon? Was it 10 seconds for half a gallon? This way I know exactly how much I'm giving them. Simply take a dip. There you go, fill it up to the rim. There's 2 gallons. Then you get into place and you give it a nice little shower. I like to water all corners. And there you go. In this case, there's not that much sun out today, so it's okay if you get your leaves wet. However, when it's 90, 100 degrees, 110 degrees out there, and you try to water, don't water your leaves, as the sun will reflect and burn all your leaves. Same way your grass dies when it's over 90 degrees and you water it. Everything just burns out and dies away. Now that this has been properly fertilized, mulched, watered already, I wait about 5 to 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever it is, and then I hit it with another. This tree, since it's not that big, I give it 2 gallons of triple 20, because this one has brand new growth, so the nitrogen is going to help feed these guys. It has the 20 for the potash and the phosphate for the roots. So 20-20-20, it's a high, well-balanced fertilizer. And since this is already wet, the soil will absorb the fertilizer, the liquid fertilizer, much better versus if I just grab the liquid fertilizer and pour it over a dry soil. Usually when watering soils, it's better to have it somewhat moist versus completely dry. When you water it and it's completely dry, the water doesn't even go into the dirt, it just runs right off. In this case, we are properly well wet and ready to be fertilized with fertilizer. All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit the subscribe and like button. Let me know if you have any questions. If you have any suggestions for me, I'm always up for new suggestions that might be better than the way that I like to do things. And I'll catch you on the next one. Happy gardening.